Hey guys, well, welcome to Treehouse Meeting 25. So this is just an open meeting. I don't really have any specific topics to talk about, so feel free to discuss anything that you would like to. But firstly, I just wanted to say extreme thank you for everyone who contributed to the Triple Christmas Party Fund. That was amazing. I think $1,620 right now, so it's an amazing effort. Thank you guys. I'm sure they'll be very happy with that. Get some extra treats at their Christmas party. Maybe in following years we'll be able to attend ourselves as well. So how was, John, how was your trip? Was New York, was it? Was it?
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. I'm still over here. So yeah, just met up with Alex Monday, right? So yeah, it's been good. Yeah, it was fun.
Was that a business trip or just holiday?
Yeah, it's a business trip. So just working over here for the next 1.5 weeks. So
okay, awesome.
So, yeah.
So since now that BC's out of our lives and the New Year's approaching, I want to try and push Treehouse a bit further and try and get a bit more community involvement, get more things on the Treehouse website, do a bit more in that regard to help the community. So I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. So if anyone has any thoughts or ideas, feel free to either discuss it now here or email me later or whenever. So, but yeah, that's something I would really like to push further. I know no one has time for any of that, neither do I, but if we don't try, it won't happen, that's for sure. So yeah, feel free to discuss that as well if anyone has any ideas. I know, Tim, you had some plans for more of a marketplace style job board type thing, so yeah, definitely keen on that idea as well. So has anyone played with version 6.3 features as yet? Particularly, I think the secure zone stuff was good. It's going to help with a lot of issues there.
No, not yet. And we had a project which had a couple of issues, so we are looking to dig into that in the next few days. So,
yeah, I think that'll really clear up some secure zone issues. The reoccurring payment feature was interesting. Does anyone have projects coming up that they're going to be able to use that on? Kind of, I think it's a bit of an edge case, but interesting feature. But I haven't really got any projects that I want to use that on just yet.
Is that just recurring products or recurring secure zone signups?
Anything really, but mainly to do with their products and events. Now that they've opened up that recurring, you can just start taking recurring payments basically for anything. So
yeah, we're busy putting together an e-commerce site at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see whether that becomes something that the client really wants to use. So yeah, pretty possibly.
Yeah. And do you see, because there was a limitation at the moment where you can't add like a recurring product and just an ordinary product or a different type of recurring product to the cart at the same time. So it's only like a one situation thing. Do you see that as it's going to be an issue, particularly for your project that's coming?
Me?
Yeah, you're anyone.
I don't know. We haven't sort of gone into that. I just have to really dig in. To be honest, we never built many e-commerce sites on BC. So I think I heard you. I watched the presentation you did last week or last time, and it's all great presentation, by the way. And it was interesting what you said. Just about sort of not having done many e-commerce sites on BC, but this is becoming a big thing for Treeple. So I think we're going to definitely find out. It's definitely on the up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Adam, can you hear me?
Yes, Alex.
Yeah, great. Sorry, I was having some microphone issues before I was talking, but wasn't coming up. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on a couple of topics you mentioned on the marketplace. And so there's like, I guess there's this idea of having some kind of like a module marketplace or some kind of a template marketplace that all of the Treehouse partners could contribute to, and then share modules between users, or even potentially monetize that, you know, so for a small fee you can kind of like grab somebody's pre-built, you know, e-commerce module that has all the, you know, sizing customization for t-shirts or something like that. I think that would be fantastic. I don't know, have you heard anything back from Treehouse on that front? I know it's been brought up a few times, but I don't know if there's some issues to work out there, or it just isn't a priority yet, or...
Yeah, I haven't heard anything specific about that. I'm guessing it's just not quite a priority at this stage. And I assume there's probably quite a lot of infrastructure stuff they would have to do in the background to make all that work. Depending on how, there's lots of different ways it could work, I guess. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I think it would kind of vitalize the platform a bit, you know, especially for new people coming in who kind of need a hand getting something built that can kind of pull together some custom pieces or something along those lines. The other thing I brought up previously was potentially having some kind of a, you know, freelance developer section that, you know, because I think all the agencies, I think the Treehouse services is excellent and it has its place, and I think I've used it and it's been fine. But I think part of having a really vibrant ecosystem is having kind of the ability to pull in other developers who are trained up on the platform, and kind of like you have an extra need on a project. Maybe it's a little bit more like you actually need somebody involved in your team for a project. Like, I think that's the use case that I see. Like, Treehouse has been fantastic for, I have this very defined need, but it's nice to have the ability to actually bring somebody into meetings and design meetings and bounce some ideas around and kind of have that. I think that would be a useful resource for other agencies, because I know we all get overbooked at times and could use some extra assistance in that regard, and have you know, developers are experienced with, you know, just the platform and Liquid and the various kinds of ins and outs of like launching sites on it and getting them up and going and stuff like that. Like, I think that's a really interesting idea. I don't know, maybe, you know, Treehouse is a bit hesitant on that front, just because they do offer their own services as well. So I kind of mentioned that. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on whether that would be helpful or interesting or, you know, not good.
Hi, it's Lynn. I agree with Alex that, you know, it would be useful, but just as a comment, I use Treehouse services all the time. And that comment about being part of the team, I bring them into the team and I'll put up things like, I'm trying to achieve this. Have you got any ideas on how we could do it? Or is there a better way around it type questions, rather than just going, do this for me. So just as a comment, that's all.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe it's the way I've been approaching it as well. Maybe I just approach it as kind of a one-off service. So I haven't had that experience, but maybe I'll change my view on it and try bring them more into the team and into those design decisions or development decisions.
I have stuff going with them nearly all the time. So,
oh yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. So they are part of the team, but I've been working with them for 14 years or something now, so I know them pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, I'm getting to know them pretty well too, just from being on this platform. So,
yep.
Do you have thoughts about the possibility of having like a freelance developer section that you would pick up? Is that something you'd be interested in, or are you just satisfied with?
No, I agree. I think that's, you know, a good idea. I can see why Alex would be hesitant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you know, watching the stuff that someone was presenting last week, there are lots of little tidbits that I know you can't talk to them, so, but there are lots of really great, innovative things that you've brought in, which are not the out of the box stuff. Now, it'd be really great to draw on people like yourself who are actually doing that kind of stuff as a sort of a common marketplace within our forums, you know. So that's really helpful, and it sort of shares the knowledge which obviously is going to benefit Treehouse in the long run because it means that you advance things and it becomes more doable to do more things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that kind of sharing and that kind of openness is kind of part of a vibrant community, and I think that's attractive to partners when they come in, right? I mean, I have a lot of meetings with clients where portability is part of the conversation, right? So they want to know that, they're not locked into a specific platform, so that might be an option for them too, where they see that potential of, if they decided to change agencies or whatever happens down the road, that they have some ability to pick up a developer or whatever. I mean, that's kind of an edge case maybe, but it's a conversation that comes up, and people talk about other CMSs in that context, that there's more portability. So
and
so what would that look like?
What would that look like?
In terms of how would the sort of forum be built practically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I could spitball some ideas right now, but I imagine it would be kind of like the agency section, where there would be, like on other CMSs, I've seen this before, where they have a list of approved developers who can kind of put up their profile, kind of like agencies do right now. And we've done this before, where we've inherited a project on a different CMS, and we don't have that experience in house, and we've literally gone to the section of the website that says, these developers are experienced in the platform and available, and we've reached out and contacted them, and that's been a fantastic experience for us for the most part. So basically just a listing of developers who show experience in that CMS.
Interesting, because if you had something like that, I mean, because we've got that on Slack, but what we're talking about is actually being a lot more specific and a kind of a repository of information where you can actually go and see, what are the specific things. And I know that now I'm trying to think of one of the other BC startups, post BC startups, which is based here in the UK. I forget what they're called now, but anyway. They have a similar thing where they've got this, you can buy a module to plug in. Whereas this is sort of like, again, sort of going back to Tilman's example, where he's actually built certain things. Now, those could be modules, or they could be things that you could list out as features or a number of things. And if you have a whole list of features of things that you've built and say, I'd like to buy your time to do that bit of integration for that piece, that's the kind of thing that could possibly work.
Yeah, sorry, I was off on the other topic. I was off on the freelance developer thing. But as far as the module marketplace, I was thinking like something like what were they called? BC Gurus, I think it was, that had all the different kind of pieces that you could plug in. So we would, back in the BC days, we would buy those and kind of plug them in and use those modules. So something similar to that. And I imagine there could even be like an implementation and like a training component. So like you get the module, and then you get a video of somebody demoing it and kind of walking you through the various pieces, right? So you kind of buy a little package, you buy some documentation, the module, and some tutorial on how to implement.
Yeah. Does Treehouse have the ability to do that, though?
So my understanding is that currently that ability to share modules doesn't exist like out of a box. Like we can't push them between people, but I know on the highest level, not the agency, but the highest level platform, you can export entire modules. Is that right, Adam? You can wrap up an entire module, pull it out, and then you can plug it into one of your other sites.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just all the settings around a module. You can
yeah, so it kind of exists partially, right?
Okay. But like how BC Gurus had, like as you said, all the pieces, you've just got to then put them all in yourself. If there's a little video showing you what to do and which steps to take, it's still possible. It's just a bit more manual work. But yeah, if Drupal can open just that sort of basic functionality up, like as Tim said in the comments, it's going to benefit Drupal to allow that sort of sharing and partner activity, because as the partners thrive, then they're going to thrive as well. So it's definitely something in their interest, I'm sure, but just whether it's a priority at this stage. Even,
I mean, who knows? Maybe that's something that could exist on the Treehouse site as well. I don't know if there's appetite there to go in that direction, but
yeah, definitely. I think that would be a perfect spot, and likewise for the job board type style thing. So partners could list their particular strengths or the types of work that they're interested in, for other people to look at and filter through, so that they can choose the right person for a job. Even have a bit of a portfolio to show what they've worked on previously, testimonials, that sort of stuff. So
the
whole,
and if there was, sorry.
No, you go, Alex.
Yeah, I was just thinking if there was something like a little bit of monetization with like modules or whatever that you could, like, obviously it isn't possible for all plan levels right now. But if it was opened up a little bit more, that users could share entire modules. And if there was something on the Treehouse site where it was like, you know, similar to, I'm basically just knocking off the idea here right now, to be frank, a similar thing where you could, you know, pay a few bucks. It's not a lot, but it's enough to like incentivize developers and partners to kind of build little things that are useful for one another. You know, for the little bit of whatever, it's like, oh, I'm putting this out there. It's useful for the community, but you know, I get, you know, a few bucks every here and there. But you know, if I'm doing it for myself, maybe I'll also take that little thing and create a tutorial out of it anyway, right? So
yeah, that's right. Definitely, if you can incentivize things, it's going to help. I mean, it is business after all, so
yeah.
But that's why I was going to actually mention the money side of things. I always, every time I sort of look into how would that work if you're going to pay for things, and that it really becomes a bit of a nightmare, because you're dealing with multiple countries, different currencies. I just don't even know how that would work. And then the legal side of things, I have no idea.
There's some challenges there for sure. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there's some simpler structure where it's like where it's all pooled or something like that, and then, you know, if you are one of the contributors and your video gets X percentage of, you know, subscribers or not subscribers, but people purchase it or your tutorial or something like that, then that goes into the pool, and then it's kind of like distributed from there. But admittedly, the distribution is the challenging part, right? You'd have to set up some kind of system where it would go out from there. So I think not impossible, but definitely would require some work.
I wonder if there's actually like a service to use instead of trying to build this ourselves. Maybe there's like a little marketplace type service that would handle all that sort of things. I don't really know off the top of my head.
Yeah, maybe there's some research to be done there. Even on the payment side, if there's some kind of a service that would, you know, automatically PayPal out the whatever royalties or little payments to everybody.
Yeah. I think there's one called Payoneer, Payoneer, I think it's called. I think Mailchimp use it for their Mailchimp partners. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that.
Yeah, I'll read that.
I think it sort of handles that type of payments, but yeah, definitely something to look into. Perhaps we just get a basic working model up that's sort of just on the free side of things, just to see how it all works and iron out any of those sorts of bugs before we move into a payment model.
Yeah, the Payoneer thing looks pretty good.
Okay. So is anyone facing any issues on projects at the moment that they're struggling with? Everything running smoothly?
We had this issue where the pricing wasn't changing with the attributes that were being selected, and I was just wondering whether or not that is it was just a bit of liquid that our dev was struggling with, or whether there was an issue there. You should be able to. The pricing should change as you select different items that are, or different attribute items.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it depends on the tag you use, because if you use the HTML price liquid tag, it should all update. But if you're just outputting the raw price from like a raw price liquid tag, then it won't change.
Oh,
that might be the issue. So just make sure you're using, like, you know how you have the price and then it's got the HTML after it. So I think the triple JavaScript needs to look at that HTML tag to be able to update it. I would assume that's the issue. So Jack's just written in the comments about this 6.3 update video. So it's on the forum, Jack. I'll post a link. Just posted that in the chat there, Jack.
It's Lynn, but the only issues I've had recently were around a couple of the upgrades and some big sites where we're running separate PHP servers for databases. It broke a few of those, but the guys, via letter, and that fixed that pretty quickly. But they were the only issues I've had recently.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so interestingly, we were looking at shipping integration options. And I know FedEx is on there, UPS, which are the only two options that we've got here in the UK. Can anybody tell me, sort of, because we haven't really delved into this yet, what is the depth of that shipping integration piece? What does it do in terms of, does it automatically, retrieve a tracking ID and that sort of thing with those integrations? I mean, how deep are those integrations? Because I went and had a look on the documentation today, and I wrote to Violetta to say all it says is details coming soon. So there wasn't much about that.
Yeah. So was this which shipping integration specifically were you working with?
We probably will go with UPS because it's only FedEx aren't massive here. So UPS is really the only option that we've got that is integrated on the system.
Right. Yeah, as I know with the documentation, some were relatively easy to create an account and test out. So I was able to document those, but some you had to pay or have a registration or be in a specific country or something. So it was a bit hard to test those out. But I believe the integration is purely to calculate the price. I don't think it generates any sort of tracking ID.
Oh, really?
Because that would have to happen once the package is actually assigned with them. I would assume it doesn't, because you're not actually placing that order with them, I guess, at that point in time.
So what do people find? How do they sort of work with the fulfillment? So once you've moved to checkout, there is a dispatched. I noticed there is a dispatched option which you can do as a customize, and then it'll. What actually happens at that point? Is it just going to do a workflow email send, or is there any kind of? Do you have to manually take the tracking code and put it into that order? Because there is a field for that.
Yeah, it would be a manual step. So once you have the tracking order, you put that in, and then you can trigger the different statuses of the order, which can fire off emails to the customer. But yeah, that's a manual step at the moment.
Okay.
I think there was some mention of other people using fulfillment type services, but I'm not sure how that integration would work. I think there'd still have to be a manual step there somewhere, or something with Zapier or.
And is that coming? That's coming in a few months' time, I presume. Zapier.
Yeah, I think it was taken off a few times. The API needs to come first, I assume, which is coming in the next release. Yeah, the API is coming in the next release. So I would kind of assume Zapier would come in the following one. If they're working on it. It's a bit hard to say at this point.
Not to move on too quickly here. I don't want to cut you off, Wayne, but
I'll go for it.
Something that has come up for me recently is the whole mailing list and Mailchimp integration. So we have the integration, but I think this has come up on the forum, and I think you responded to me in that sense, Adam, about how it's handled. So right now it kind of like unsubscribes and subscribes users from a Mailchimp mailing list, which is not really the paradigm that Mailchimp has around how mailing lists are handled. They use tags to kind of separate the different audiences. So I think that has been a bit of a challenge recently, because I've just really started, since we got the custom report to mailing list feature recently, I've been trying to make that same workflow that we had in BC operate. Like it was a really good workflow. It was a really useful workflow to kind of like create custom reports, and then as those custom reports were dynamically updated, have people added and removed from a list. So like the classic use case for this is if you have like some kind of membership renewal and you want to send out, 4 reminders, but you don't want the same people to get the same reminders, then you have a list of the already renewed members, and those are automatically removed. So that's the second kind of sticky bit that I've had, is that it doesn't quite work the same way, where you can't have multiple mailing lists synced at the same time. So from a user experience standpoint, it's a lot more challenging to have a client go through that workflow, because you have to go to each mailing list, sync it manually, and then have your final mailing list or your final custom report, which is the subscribed users or whatever, then permanently synced, and then that'll update. But it's a bit of a heavy lift for clients. It's not as easy as the BC version, which was you selected the added list and you selected the removal lists, and then it kind of would generate those for you very simply. So, I guess my thing is I'd love to see, maybe I should put a backlog request in for that. I'd love to see a little bit of improvement there. Like it's very close. All the pieces are there. But there's just kind of that final something to bring it all together.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. The Mailchimp integration is lacking quite a lot, I think. I think if they can just move to that tagging system rather than mailing list system, methodology, then it would just open things up a lot more. Because like you said, we don't really work with mailing lists like that anymore. So, and it's limiting for people who are on the free plan as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the other thing, is that you kind of need a list per group right now, and so that adds the expense because those aren't free, right?
Yeah, and it's just not ideal anyway for how Mailchimp works. So.
Yeah, I was just chatting to Violetta about that very thing today, and so I've just posted what she said to me on the chat. So I've just posted that there is a backlog request on that, so I'll put it in there.
Oh, excellent.
Great. Yeah, there's a. I'm not sure if that backlog links to it, but there's a forum post that I did that goes into a ton of detail about how that could work and different options. So yeah, there's lots of possibility for it. But it's just
Mailchimp is really popular here in the UK. Loads and loads of companies use it. So it's would be good if we get more integration there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a bad system. I've used that a bit, and Active Campaign seems to be quite good too.
Yeah, one of the reasons that it's so popular is because they've really worked hard on the GDPR piece. So they're unfortunately, you get a lot of bounces on any send, but they've sort of battened down the hatches on that whole thing so that they can be recognized as a highly GDPR compliant SaaS solution. So yeah.
So Tim's just mentioned in the chat that very keen to work on the partner collaboration type stuff. So he's offering to contact him in Slack about that. So definitely be good. So what do people want to see more out of Treehouse? Like, is there anything particular you guys are after? Like, I know the code snippets are up there. We definitely could use with more of those. I don't know. Do you want like more regular meetings, or something you can think of that would help the current situation?
I think this is my first one, so good to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you, Wayne.
I mean, from what I can tell, I mean, I've watched a few. I think partly, I think before the timing wasn't quite. I think a couple of them were like 1 o'clock in the morning for me. So I don't know what it's like for everybody else, but yeah, I think these are really, really helpful, really useful. And certainly the presentation that Tim did last time I thought was great. So lots of those probably, practical use cases.
Yeah.
I'm curious how people would feel about, like, it's always nice to have a little demo to kind of kick things off. Would it make sense to do some like demos of more basic features, like just like,
yeah,
here's how to use Liquid in a collection and a layout, and those like little things that aren't like the most basic, but like, if somebody hasn't had that experience before, it might be helpful. Like, I mean, I imagine everybody's kind of using some more of the more advanced features, but does that make sense to people? Like here's how you do these kind of like basic things, just like a shorter, like 10-minute demo.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess maybe I can put up a poll on the forums because there's not a huge amount of people here to sort of get that feel. But yeah, definitely be keen on that.
Yeah, I know everybody likes the use cases because it gives us a lot of insight into what a more complex workflow looks like. But I think they're also a heavier lift for anybody to organize, right? Put together a demo for that. So
yeah. And I think too, it's just helpful to see how other people do things, because sometimes you just think, oh, you do it that way. Okay, I've always done it this way and that looks better. Or yeah. Or
even to demo and have people tell you that there's a better way to do it. Yeah.
And also the system's growing, the size of it and the number of things that you can do with it, right? So the chances are that you're going to miss something somewhere, and maybe a little presentation like that, just suddenly you see somebody do something. Oh, what was that? I didn't know that could do that.
Yeah.
And there's some quirky little things too, like custom CRM fields are a little bit quirky to implement. So like, maybe it's not something everybody does every day, but it would be good to just have a little 10-minute demo on like, this is how you pull it out, right? This is how you interact with that. So maybe little things like that. That would be my suggestion. Just with the eye towards maybe drawing in more Treehouse partners or kind of people who are on the outskirts a little bit who would be interested in that kind of information, get a little bit more involvement. Just an idea.
Yep, perfect. Yeah.
So maybe that's the sort of thing that can even then go on Treehouse. So you just cut out that bit of the recording that you've got here and put it on Treehouse for other people to be able to quickly find.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. And then
that is a great idea. Yeah,
building up that whole repository of snippets of videos. Yep, awesome.
That's it.
I think
it'll definitely help. That sort of thing will definitely help clients, because I find I've got clients that will go in and they're searching for knowledge on a particular topic or particular thing, and sometimes it's more useful to actually see a talking head. Somebody's actually showing you and talking to you about it.
Yeah.
Talking about clients, that actually sparks another idea that was brought up in Treehouse meetings a long time ago, but we were talking about having some kind of white labeled documentation or walkthrough for clients specifically, just like, how to update posts and how to use the nice editor and how to update content on a page. I think most of us probably do client training. So if there was some like white labeled resource where we could just say, hey, here's a repository of how to do all these things, and obviously not getting into like custom modules too much, but like, go over the WYSIWYG editor and how to edit a page and where to find the various pieces of content. Those kinds of things I think would be helpful, like not in this context, not in the meeting, but just as having a place to have a repository where we could contribute those. I mean, I do a training every couple of weeks, but to have something as a backup where I can just kind of put my little training bits and then just kind of send clients there. Of course, there'd be some updates necessary as things change on the site, but for the most part, things I think would last quite a long time there and be helpful. What do people think about that?
It's Lynn. I agree totally. It's would be really handy. I constantly have to set up a little PDF or a video or something for clients to, as simple as how to add an image, those sorts of things. And as you said, it would be a bit hard with custom modules. We have to do our own for those. But I'm ending up with a stockpile of ones that I just, when a client rings up, I just send them a PDF. But if we had a white label ones that we could brand, that'd be fabulous.
How would that come off from the client's point of view? Like, particularly if you've got multiple people from the community contributing these little videos, I assume that's how it would have to work, but you've got all different people in the videos, different voices, different accents even. How does that come off for the client? Is it a bit weird?
I was probably thinking more PDFs with screen grabs on one of those basic ones, that just a white label PDF that we can add our branding to. And I think I agree with you with videos that it start to feel it. Although my memory of BC Gurus and things like that was they were from different contributors. A lot of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it would be an issue. We're so used to YouTube and just this multiplicity of cultures and accents and stuff. I just think it's normal. I don't think people would even blink twice.
As long as they got the information they need.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some people would use it, and for some people, they couldn't use it because that would be an issue for them. But I think as a backup, I mean, I would probably still do training, but then I would say, hey, there's also this repository of demos that you can access anytime. And so maybe that wouldn't be on my brand necessarily, but it wouldn't be on somebody else's brand. It would just kind of be like, kind of like the docs are right now. But, I think PDFs are fantastic. Like, to have a section of PDFs is fantastic that we could download and brand ourselves to send it out to the clients. But I see value or utility in, having demos, just screencasts, walkthroughs of kind of every individual piece kind of broken down, like how to add an image, how to use a WYSIWYG, like those things. Okay,
so where would all this be then? Like, would you send, are we saying like to some sort of generic white label website, or would it be on Treehouse, or just on YouTube, or how would you present it to the client?
I would have imagined it'd be on Treehouse in an area where we can just go and grab it as we need them.
So you're saying,
I wonder whether or not it actually should be part of the, the knowledge base. I don't know, because they could all be, vetted and quality controlled by Treeple. Alex could give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and that's the way it's controlled in terms of presentation of it. So that's right and accurate. So it could be Treeple branded within a community space, and community partners are contributing, but it's in a sort of a formalized way, if you like.
It does get to the point that's come up before, that why isn't documentation available to our clients' admins? Because a lot of the time, if I get asked a question, I'll do the training and stuff, and then I'll copy out the bit of documentation that's relevant to the bit of training and give it to the client. So why wouldn't we make documentation available, not just to the partner, but to the admins, client admins?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to set up a poll, that would be an interesting question. I don't know. We're transparent about, Treeple and the hosting platform to our clients, but I know I understand that there are definitely people who are fully white labeling. So that's a relevant question if it's more useful to have some kind of generic site for it, or
I think the documentation too is kind of twofold. You've got the developer side documentation, and you have the user side documentation for those users who aren't developers.
Yeah.
Don't need to see
maybe
that
it's possible to
developer.
make the documentation two-tiered, one available and one not.
Yeah, I think that's how it would have to work, was to go that direction. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it would be fine if it was like a different section of the documentation. There was like an admin section of the documentation, right? It's pretty common to have documentation segmented that way anyway, right? So having it on somewhere, with the treeple.co domain is not an issue for me personally, but as far as perception goes.
What if it was actually like a YouTube channel? So it's actually served up on an independent platform.
Yeah, I think in parts it would be, but I guess when you've got written stuff and downloadable stuff, then it couldn't just be YouTube. You'd have to have a different platform. But
I think it would be nice to have a little bit of curation and a little bit of what do I want to say? I guess somebody just checking that, the video that's listed under the topic is the most current version of that video, and just somebody just keeping an eye, just to make sure that the quality is there, that, audio is good and the presentation is good and appropriate for clients.
I think also, from my point of view, I understand what you're saying about some clients or some partners wanting to be fully white labeled. But from my point of view, I use Treeple as a stamp of quality. And, the same would be if the documentation was the actual Treeple documentation, then to me, that's, it's correct and, it's, you can trust it. So I think there's a two-sided coin, but that doesn't help someone who wants to be totally white labeled. In that case, maybe there's a way of switching it on and off for a client to allow for the people that want to be totally white label.
Yeah, I mean that makes me think of that it could be something you could turn on in the admin almost.
Yeah.
Right? Inside the site where you could.
You could allow some clients to have access to it, and ones that you don't want access to it, you don't give them access to it. That would be perfect.
To that point too, in the admin, if you're on the pages tab, you could have the training or the resources linked to that page. So you click the link and it goes to that, the information for pages or information for snippets or training for file manager right from the admin. And then you can control who has access and who doesn't. That way, if you have a client that you're limiting access to and limiting features to, they don't see all the, training and documentation for those features you're not giving them access to. I mean, that's might be a wish, but just an idea.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that'd work really well.
Yeah, that would work really well. I think BC brought in something like that, didn't they? Near towards the end there, they had the help thing was relevant to what you're looking at on the page. But yeah, definitely that would help. I guess on the note of people wanting to white label, and I mean I'm in that boat. I white label Treeple. I don't present Treeple to my clients. But I guess if you're taking on that stance as a white labeler, then there's some inherent responsibility then for you to create your own materials because you're choosing to white label. So it's kind of on you to do that then if you're taking that stance, I guess. So I think we'll probably, if we could just start with Treeple branded documentation and I'm constantly trying to work on that further. And then at least the materials there that we can then use to make the partner themselves, if they're white labeling, can take that and convert it into their own format. So as long as the material is there to start with.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Some of the trouble too is when you start going into the client side of things and how to do things in the admin, people do set up things differently, so they can instruct their clients on to do things differently. There isn't just one single way of doing something. There might be in the simpler things, but once you start getting a little bit more involved, then one partner might train their clients in a totally different way to someone else. So that could be an issue as well. Alrighty, guys. Well, if there's no other topics to talk about, we can all get on with our day or not. Just checking the chat here for anything I missed. All right, guys. Well, I'll stop the recording now. We can continue talking after for sure.